You've heard me talk a number of times about how I believe that free speech as a concept is basically dead. And a part of the issue here is the growing number of people who think that it's okay for a government to remove a journalist. And I'm not talking about just from the room, although that happens regularly. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to have a closed-door meeting now. Everybody get out. And to a certain degree, look, the privacy issues, whatever, I can see a certain point. However, if you really believe in the concept of open meetings, to me it seems like media always ought to be involved. In fact, I would go so far as to say if you're conducting business in the name of the public, every meeting ought to be a public meeting. Somebody ought to be there to make sure that some shady backroom deal isn't going on in the back room where you just went for an executive session. So I'm not just talking about the exclusion of media from meetings. I'm not just talking about arresting media personnel, which has been happening alarmingly often around the world. There was just another one in today's news in the Ukraine, a woman who did a report that the government of Ukraine felt was damaging to its reputation. They've arrested her and basically charged her with terrorism for doing her job as a journalist, reporting on what the government was doing so that the people know. And now she's facing charges, and there is an organization, the CPJ, which it's all about protecting journalism, and not just individual journalists, but the idea of journalism, that somehow people have a right to know what's going on, and that especially governments ought to be held accountable for the things that are done in their names. Well, then there's that third aspect of somebody losing their job over a report that they gave or over an opinion that they expressed. And it seems to me that more and more everyday people are okay with the idea of a mayor calling up and saying, you know what, I really don't think that the reporter ought to be out on the beat anymore. And people are like, yeah, that's fine. No, it's not. It's not okay. It's wrong. And it's not only does it stifle free speech in the sense of people expressing opinions, but it also isolates the public from the things that the government is doing on the government's behalf, in the sense of, if you don't know what they're spending your money on that they've taken from you, I don't know anybody who pays taxes willingly. Okay, you don't know what that money's being spent on if they don't report on it. Because how often all you get is these press releases, and I've seen some of these before. Press release comes out, and some journalists just dutifully read the press release as if somehow they're delivering news. That's not. That's propaganda. And right now, it seems like many of my fellow Americans are okay with that. Wake up, please, before we end up not only having journalists thrown into prison in the United States, and that has happened, by the way, just recently. People have been physically detained and put in jail for doing nothing more than asking questions of the elected leaders. That's only the first step. If that trajectory continues, we're going to end up with everyday citizens being rounded up for thought crimes. Just an idea that you ought to consider. If you'd like to engage me in this topic, send me an email, steve@radiofreespeech.com.